Hi, welcome to episode 10 of the Plant Your Energy podcast. My name is Cheryl Armstrong.
I'm Mark Moses.
And our guest today is Mary Dofelmire, who is a good friend of mine from when we were incarcerated. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So this is a special episode because Mary and I ended up having a very special connection, but I'm going to give her the floor and let her share her story. There's a lot of power in where she's come from, her journey to prison, what she did to transform while she was inside, and the amazing things that she's doing since she's been out. So if you want to go ahead and just kind of get into wherever you want to go.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it kind of will end up full circle because I am now living in my hometown, which is kind of where everything started for me. When I was younger, probably about 15, 16, I started having, some behavioral problems, mental health struggles, just typical teenage stuff. And that progressed to definitely things that were worse and being placed into group homes, things like that, because I was pretty much unmanageable when I was a teenager and was in and out of facilities, you name it. And the only thing that kind of straightened me out was I joined the military, and that was probably the best time of my life. And unfortunately, I ended up injuring my knee, and that led to a really, really nasty addiction to any and every type of opiate and narcotic painkiller that you could think of, which led to heroin, which led to every other type of awful thing. And there's a million other stories in between, but that's the short of it. And so I ended up getting incarcerated for my first time for distribution, and I ended up in the cycle of Montana's Department of Corrections. And they back then it was really hard TC in a program called Elkhorn, or they sent you to a place called Passages. And all of these places, if I were to compare programming, they just don't have the resources out here because there's not as many people. And so they're just, very limited on what they can do for help. And so I never really, when I wasn't really ready, we could sit there and say they didn't help me, but that's not true. When you're younger and immature and you think you know everything and nobody can tell you, right? So yeah, that was a big part of, I think, why I had a lot of struggle when I was out here, was just there was a lack of resources for what we needed. And from there I pretty much just destructed my life and ended up getting incarcerated out there for a period of 3 years. And within 1 year, I was incarcerated again. And this time it was out in Denver. And I was, arrested on an aggravated armed robbery charge, and something that I live with every day. It haunts me. And, you get to a point where you think that you move past something, but I just still carry a lot of guilt. And I've done victim restoration. And the reason I'm even sitting here speaking with you today is because of that work I did. Originally with my case, they were very adamant and, outspoken on me being locked up and accountable. And I deserved every day of it. I did. And through hard work and, making the best amends that I could, which was through changed behavior and through helping others, and through, we can sit there and tell people we've changed all day, right? But to actually do the changing and be an example is a totally different thing. And so they were a big piece in me being, out today. And so I never, ever forget that. But yeah, just kind of, there's a million things in between there. But, and then I met you. And I was a very different person when I met you. It was not, man, I was broken, like just a broken person. I said I wasn't going to cry through this thing, but it might happen. I don't know. It's too early.
That's
We're only 2 minutes in. But, looking back now, I just think because when I got there, I had this big sentence, and plus another huge one in Montana I hadn't even dealt with. And it was very scary. And, being in a state where you don't know anybody, like you have no friends, you have no direction. And it's like you're trying to find anything to cling on to for hope. And I remember making a decision one day and I was like, I have got to find a way to get myself out of this and change because this is not working. Everything I've tried has not worked. Um, like I'm just a mess and I'm gonna die. And I've already victimized people and I've hurt people and I was a terrible human. Like I really was, in my addiction. And um, how do I make this right? And how can I live with myself at the end of the day? Right. And I think that's something that anybody who's been incarcerated can really relate to. It's like living with what we've done and not just existing with what we've done, but living with it and learning to um, not cripple us. And so I remember I was just this new number, right? A brand new number on the yard and running around. I'm like, I want to know who is the person who's doing it here. I need to know who that person is because I need to know what they're doing. And everybody kept saying, you need to go find Cheryl Armstrong. And so I remember I came out there. That's how I met Cheryl.
I didn't know that.
So this is how we met. I remember it very clearly. You were running. And I don't know if maybe it was Claire Walsh or somebody who told me, don't interrupt her while she's running. And I was like, I need to talk to her now because, anybody who knows me, I need to work on boundaries. I'm much better now. But I'm like, hey, you, hey. And you're like, in a minute, one more lap. And you're so sweet about it. The way you came over. And I was like, I heard that you got your master's and everything like that. And you spent a chunk of time talking to me and saying, if you really apply yourself, and you had a life sentence at that time, there was a lot changed in what that was 7 years, of time. But um, yeah, it was just really crazy. Like if I look at it now and man, just hunting you down. And I was like, I need to know what you're doing and just kind of seeing your routine and you're really disciplined in working out. And you were in that gym and you guys were doing step aerobics at that time. And I was like, man, that's so cool. And uh, then I remember getting into the gym for the first time. And that's when I realized just not only how unwell I was. I remember trying to do like 10 burpees and I couldn't even do 5. Like, oh, mess. But yeah, so that was kind of like how we met. And then after that, it just it spread to Dance to Be Free. And that is Dance to Be Free. Dance
Look
to Be
at
Free.
that.
Dance to Be Free. And where I'm going next, that program I will always say is my heart and soul, my spirit. Lucy Wallace will always be one of my biggest. I always say she saved my life, and I mean that because it wasn't just her; it was a million other people too. But she looked at me and saw me for more than this criminal, this drug addict, this lost cause, this menace to society, every other type of label that we get. And I found out that I actually had kind of a talent for something. And then I remember Miss Morris. I went and I was like, we had dance cardio and we had Dance to Be Free, but I remember our numbers were really low at that time. And then I think when you have the right culmination of the right staff with the right people, with the right hearts, you can do amazing things. And so that's something that, I really miss about prison. Like I'll sit here, I miss it. I do. And people think, oh, you shouldn't miss that. You need to move on and forget it. I can't move on. I can't. I can't move on.
Because it
Cannot move
changed you
on.
so much, right? For the better.
Yep, here they come. Yep. Yeah, it did.
I always tell people like the bonds and connections that we had in there are something that I have not felt since I've been out and will probably never feel again for the rest of my life. And if you haven't lived that, you don't understand it. And Mark is really lucky because the guys that he developed those kinds of bonds with, he works with them all now at his HVAC company.
Yeah, that's
And I
amazing.
had to leave everybody behind that I have bonds with. And it can feel very lonely out here. And people that haven't been incarcerated, that's the piece that they just can't really get. Because the
Yeah.
work that we do together in there, the collaboration
Oh,
and the compassion and the empathy, it's on a whole nother level.
you can't
Something I think
ever,
don't
yeah,
go ahead.
describe it.
Mhm.
Yeah, people don't understand it's a micro community. So it's basically like the world condensed down to a small area. You want
Mhm.
to go see somebody, now you're driving 30 minutes to an hour. Back then you're walking a minute across the yard to go see somebody. So you got really tight bonds at that point.
Well, and
Exactly.
you're with each other through the worst time of your life.
Absolutely.
Minus for me when my mom died, that's at the top of the list for me. But incarceration for 26 years is a close second. And so
Yeah, for
going
sure.
through all of these things with these people day after day, month after month, and for us, year after year after year, it's just a beautiful, beautiful bond, and the
Hmm.
things that we created to bring joy to our lives in that ugly environment, we'll
Yeah.
never forget that. So
It'll never be
understand.
replicated. It will never be replicated. Like it won't. Like I look back now, it's just like you said, and it's like that time is so special for me in so many different ways. Like the, you know, strongest relationships I ever had, the best friendships I ever had. And I think that's what's so hard is like, when you get out and you don't have that anymore in a way. And it's a hard adjustment. Like it really is. Um man, and then like moving out here, talk about a whole culture shock. What
Beautiful. God, that's amazing.
Welcome to Montana,
shivering
everybody.
because it's cold.
Right. Yeah. So you ended up basically, and I'll say this for you, you became a leader yourself while you were at La Vista Correctional Facility. And I believe you
Mm.
ended up serving somewhere around 10 years, right?
With my Montana time and my jail time, yeah, it was
It was a
about 10
total of
total.
about
Yeah.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
So, people talk about transforming their lives when they walk out of prison. As we just kind of touched on, you and I know very
Mhm.
well that the hard work starts happening well before that time.
Yeah.
When you were inside, what do you think was the hardest part of changing your mindset and believing that you deserved a different life moving forward?
I think throughout my life, through I've been beat down mentally and emotionally a huge portion of my life. I mean, all the way back, all the way back. And I've been every type of horrible thing that could happen, to a person has happened to me. And I um learning to trust people, is really hard. And um gosh, I almost had a trauma response there. Jeez Louise. What was the question again? Wow. Sorry,
It's
ask me
interesting
again.
how that happens, right? So
Yeah.
basically, what was the hardest part of changing your mindset and believing you deserved
Okay.
a different life?
All right. Yeah. So just like basically knowing your worth, knowing that you deserve a place on this planet and that you're deserving of love, but also deserving of self-love. Like we tend to be external seekers. Because it's easy when you're in community or when you're around people that lift you up, but how do you do that if it's just you? And so learning to fine tune being okay, being just with yourself, being okay just being and sitting with a really difficult emotion, right? Working through something. Um, Learning a lot of skills like um, grounding and fitness has always been like the go-to for me. But yeah, I guess that would be more of my answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you say a lot of different things that hit a lot of different points, but what we all fall victim to is we're our biggest enemy as well as our biggest ally. It's kind of hard to get out of that space of being your biggest enemy, right? We'll show
Right.
grace, forgiveness,
Mhm.
love, and understanding to everybody around us, and any transgression they ever had,
Exactly.
we kind of wipe it away. But when it's our own personal stuff, we hold our feet to the fire a little too long sometimes, and we end up stuck
Mhm.
in a cycle over and over and over again.
Exactly. And I think that was like, I did a lot of stuff when I was locked up. And I remember, if Laura Cadena ever sees this, you were right. You're absolutely right. She said, one day you're going to crash and burn if you do not slow down, because I worked and worked and worked and worked. I mean, I had at one point like 7 jobs, and I just felt such an obligation. Like, especially for like, it's different for women when we're locked up, we lose stuff so quickly. And if it doesn't hold traction, it's gone. Like Cheryl, I remember, was like, I don't even know the list of programs you've probably seen come and go over the years, And so like inside, when you have really positive things going and keeping momentum, it's a toll. It is a day and night, 24/7. Work does not stop. And like, if you're in a leadership position, you don't want to fail anybody, because if, a program doesn't work, how is that going to affect these people? It might affect them going home. It affects their mental health. It affects their emotions. And so you carry a lot of that. And then, looking back now, I wasn't the best leader in a lot of ways. I've had a lot of time to be humble and to sit and to, know that I was operating from the best that I thought I knew how. But also, I probably owe some people some apologies for being such a hard ass, and for, maybe I could have been more empathetic. Um, yeah, so I've done a lot of reflection on like, what does being a leader mean? What does that
Yeah,
actually mean? What does
you
that
and
really
me,
mean?
you
What
and me
does that
both.
mean? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned a
Um,
lot about that myself because I was kind of an asshole in prison. Even
yeah.
though I have people like you, she was quick to say, yeah.
Yeah, because it's true. No, but not that, just
No, it
not
is.
an asshole, direct. Direct.
Sometimes overly direct. And I think that learning to find the balance with, okay, I want to be direct with you. I want to be straight up and I want to
Mhm.
challenge you with what you're doing, but I don't want to make you feel bad. And I don't want to be like, you need to do it like this. And it was always
Yeah.
interesting for me, just to share a quick side note, that, you sought me out. You wanted to hear about how I was doing what I was doing. I got a lot of that over the years, but in my mind, I used to think, why are people looking at what I'm doing? Well, it's because my action. But what didn't
100%.
line up with my action was my attitude. And so that was a valuable lesson that I had to learn, because even though I was doing all these positive things for my self growth, I still didn't like most of the people in there. I was very particular about who was in my circle. I still had that
Ring of protection.
it was a ring of
Yeah.
protection, but it wasn't necessarily always healthy. It was there was negativity attached to it, because it was like, I don't want you anywhere near me. You're drama. I don't like you. And my
Mhm.
direct would tell people that. And so I had
Mhm.
to learn when I got out to soften my leadership skills, just like what you're
Right.
talking about, having to fine tune that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about growth. And like, I mean, I was just a drug addict. Like, weed what? Like, you guys are what? And but like, the honor of like being able to work with like the best women in the world, like, are hands down like some most special memories and friendships. And that kind of led to a little bit of like, I like to call the downfall of Mary Dofelmire. It wasn't the downfall, it was just a timeout. But I'm back. So yeah, like, when the biggest shock to me, it was going to the halfway house. That was probably the biggest thing when I got out. And if I would have had any idea what that place was going to be like, I mean, I got there and I begged for them to take me back. Begged to go back.
Really?
I begged. I said, I was ready to even just reoffend at that point. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's a crazy thought, right? But I
Mm.
remember it was ICCS Kendall, and I don't care. That's where it was. And it was horrific, a horrific experience. And I mean, to the point of within immediately, I could not go to the gym. I was not allowed to go on pass. I was not allowed any access to what worked for me. Like, but The only time they would let me go was if it was for something shiny and important. And that's where I started to kind of have this feeling of like, well, if I'm not being allowed to go to the gym for things on a daily basis that are, like going to benefit me for the overall good, but you'll let me go to speak at, some event because it's an event. You know what I'm saying? That's where I started to be like, I'm not a show pony, and I'm not. Just kind of realized like the only time that people were willing to let me go and do things is if it was for either an event or it was, something that looked good for other programs or for other, stuff like that. And I started to kind of see things with certain programs and nonprofits that were not in alignment with my morals and what and so I just started stepping back. And then with that, I went through a lot of like losses within a short period of time. Oh, Susan,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was a rough one. And I know that was especially hard for you.
Yeah. It's my best friend, man.
Yeah.
Not just my best friend, but so many people's best friends. And
yeah,
that was bad because she was one of the first people to, she took me in my first class,
Mhm.
and so I guess looking around, like you look back and, all of that stuff had to happen for me to be where I'm at now and to have what I have now. And so, yeah, like, I went through a lot of loss when I was inside and, as well as getting out. And I really think that there's a huge issue with our halfway houses, in Colorado. I mean, all of them, it's just a mess. It's a mess. And their success rate sucks. I wish it wasn't like that, and that's not to say for all of them, but for majority, it's not set up for people to be very successful. It's a huge fight. And if you don't have a good support system, it's very hard. It's saying it's not impossible, right? It's
Sure.
very difficult. And so that was a big, hardship for me. And then to boot, when I got pregnant, I immediately got sick. And so I went from being the fittest shape, years of work, with CrossFit and, dance and all these other programs. I worked so hard. And within 6 months, it was gone. It was gone. I was on bed rest. I, was induced really early with my daughter. With that, if it hadn't been for, my friends and support that I had there at that time, I don't even know if I would have made it. It was so bad. And, then after I started having a bunch of hormone problems and, injuries and just like back to back to back. And it was like, I felt at that time, like I was so angry with God. And I was at a point where spiritually I was ready to just pretty much give up. I get through stuff. Okay. So basically when, I felt it was like punishment, like at that time, I felt like this is what you get for not slowing down. This is what you get from like, I don't know what happened. And then I started going pretty much insane, you guys. Like I could not figure out what was wrong with me. Like I just felt off. I just felt crazy. I could not and I'd had my daughter and I went through pretty bad like postpartum depression. And if it wouldn't have been for, my kid's dad during that time, who's the most amazing human being on the face of this earth. And I don't know what I would do without him. Best dad, hands down. But that being said, he took care of her because I couldn't even get out of bed. I didn't leave the house for almost a year. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, it was a bad time, really bad time. But I had some really good friends, and that's like, gosh, I can't get through this without crying about people. Jeez Louise, you guys. See, hormones. So that's what I was going to get to is hormones. That's what's wrong with me. That's why I'm crazy and insane. Get your hormones checked. Get your hormones checked.
Yes.
All right? Guys,
so
too.
True.
it happens with men too. And so that's what was wrong with me. I found out I had hyperthyroidism. I wasn't crazy. I just had a baby, went through some hard stuff. You know, that happens, right? When you're older. I mean, I just turned 40 this year and have a toddler. So of course it's not going to be perfect, but I found out I had a major thyroid issue, and it was causing me heart palpitations. And, I had some injuries and stuff back to back too, but, you know, we're getting back on top. So getting, those things managed was crucial, because if you can't get your mental straight, like nothing else will work. Like I didn't even have the discipline to even go to the gym. Like I stopped going to the gym. That's how bad, like I quit doing everything except for dance. And during those early first few months, like had it not been for like, especially like, oh my gosh, my bestie, Elise Suskind, she's going to see this. My road dog, ride or die bestie until the end of time. Like, um, she was very tough on me. And she says, I was really making some bad choices during that time, and bad thoughts, every type of everything. And man, if it wouldn't have been for her and being tough on me and holding me accountable and saying, like, what are you doing? But she says something that stuck out to me and it scared me to death. She said, I look up to you as a leader and a mentor. And if you're struggling and you don't make it, what does that say for me? And that hit me in my stomach so hard. And I vowed right then and there that, like, I have got to change, because, yeah, like even, people who do great things and are in leadership roles, you never know what can happen to you. You never know when a loss can happen, where an illness can happen, an injury. We all think we're super prepared until we're not. And so I guess that's the moral of the story. I was probably more floored and in the dirt than I've ever been in my life, but also I was in one of the most beautiful spaces of my life, because I have this beautiful baby and a beautiful life, and I'm so grateful and thankful for that. But it took a lot of work. And so moving forward, I found out my dad had Parkinson's disease. And so that was, I'm not going to go into a lot of that. It's very personal with my family. But we're working through it and doing the best that we can. And so out here helping him and helping look out for my folks. And then I was trying to get plugged in with anybody and anything I could, because you gotta remember, this is where I terrorized. Like I was bad here. Like I am talking bad. Like this is where I was like just crazy, right? And so when I moved back here, I went instantly from, basically about to be done with parole to right full on everything you can imagine. Like full on, UAs every week and checking in every week. And in all fairness, they're going off of what they know, which is my record in my file. And, I've done all this work and I had all these certificates, and it was the first time that they looked at me and said, no. And imagine how that feels for somebody like, like here's that ego again, being like, I've done all of this work. Like what?
Yeah.
Like what? It doesn't count. None of it counts. And they said, you have to show and prove that you're different. This is just a piece of paper. And they were right. And I was thankful for that accountability, because when I got here, there was more struggle, right? I mean, we bought a house and it got crushed 2 times. Like
Exactly.
there's part
So
of it too.
trees falling on your house.
Yeah.
So
So
I want to kind of summarize for the sake of time today. You say you've created Mountain Fitness. I want you to
yeah.
kind of just tell us about that and what you're doing in the community with that.
Yeah. So Mountain Fitness Co. I've always had the dream of wanting to start my own business, and that's always been something I've wanted to do. But it's like I do so many things and so many facets of fitness and mentorship, and I'm one of those people that, how do you fine tune it into one place? And so when I first moved here, every door was a no. It was, you're a felon, no, 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 no. And it's very different out here as opposed to like Colorado. It's a lot harder to get things done. And I had an amazing friend, and she got her foot in the door. Alicia Barrows, who is she's the program coordinator over at the Lincoln County Recovery Drop-In Center. And then Deb Burrell, who was actually one of our COs at the time. So it's ironic that now we're in this, like, it's kind of a full circle moment of being with these amazing people. And then I started volunteering my time there and doing some groups. And then I finally was able to get into Libby Gym. And I have a huge heart for Vince Baggin. Thank you so much for allowing us, this opportunity, and for someone like me to believe in me that I'm more than my past, and that anybody can, be an entrepreneur and a business owner. And you're going to have a lot of no's and a lot of in the dirt and not wanting to go on and drag yourself up. And that's life, though. That's the way it is. It's about getting back up and say, no, I know that I have something to offer here. And so that's what it was about. I wanted to come back to my town and be more than what I left, if that makes sense. Like it's about redemption, but it's also about how can I help? These are my friends. These are people I went to high school with. These are their children. These are my cousins. These are this is a tight knit thing. And there's a lot of poverty here. There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of, distrust with the courts and the system. And so they don't have association here. Yeah. So if you're on, a felon, you cannot speak to another felon. Yes. So we're trying to work on if they can realize that if you have a few good people, like, it'll make your caseload easier.
Yeah.
And the best place to help people, that in my opinion has always been in the gym. Like, classes and all that are wonderful, but if you're not doing anything about the physical body and getting, out of that limbic system and doing something physical. And so what we do is we combine a little bit of everything, and that's what it's all about. It's about community. We do not do any negativity. There's no body shaming. There is no any of that within this class, any of the classes. And we want people to be their best selves and just be kind and not be so harsh to each other. And we slay in there. Those girls, I am telling you, they work so hard, and all of them, I list them all out right now, but I'd miss somebody, and I know I would, but they give just as much back to me. Like, they pour into me and give me purpose and get me up out of bed and keep me accountable, because I got to come and work out too. And, so that's kind of what I wanted, and to have a space for people who are early on their journey. And we do a lot of functional training and things like that too. So it's for everybody. We welcome anyone, and come as you are. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So basically, now you're getting to take all the life lessons that you've learned, and you're getting to help lift other people up through what you've created with Mountain Fitness. And so and kind of wrapping up today, I always ask every person, moving forward, how are you going to continue to plant your energy?
I am going to keep doing it one little seed at a time, one conversation at a time, one, mindful moment at a time. And, here's what I do. I always think about the people who got me to where I'm at, and I never forget them. And so I always try to take a tidbit of what I've learned from other people and pass that on, because I know, like, I never forget who got me where I'm at. And I am so thankful for those people, you being one of them. Like,
Thank you.
man, it just, like, I look back and here we are, and we've made it, and we're still
And
making
what you say I did for you, now you're getting to do for the women that are in your classes. And it's such a beautiful thing to watch it just build itself, and for other people's lives to unfold as you get to watch them grow and level up and level up, and then they get to help the next people. And I'm always
Yeah.
talking about the ripple effect, and here it is again, but it's such a
Exactly.
powerful thing. And so
Exactly.
I just want to tell you, thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Exactly. Yeah, I
Thank
started was
you
so
for
chaotic.
No, it's okay. It's all good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the cons of living in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah,
it is
it's
what it
great.
is. We will get through it anyways, because that's what we do in life. So this is
Yeah.
a minor problem compared to the shit we've been through. So it's all
No
good.
kidding.
So, you
Service.
know,
I'm getting
I'm
started.
always was okay.
I'm gonna get
I'm
started.
always here for you. We'll stay connected. For anybody that's watching today, thanks for supporting our podcast
Mhm.
and for supporting Mary.
Mhm.
I hope that you guys will like this episode and that you'll subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channels and keep following us, because we've got a lot of great people's stories to share. And that's what this is about, is us giving people that platform to share the way that they're planting their energy and making their little changes in the world. And it's really beautiful. And so again, thank you for coming on, Mary.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I am so grateful. And I just wish everybody the best.
Thank you.
Yeah.